They say betrayal doesn't come from your enemies, it comes from the people you'd die for. Looking back now, I should have known that one phone call would change everything. It was a Tuesday morning in Miami, bright and heavy with the scent of salt and Sunday. I was sitting on my balcony overlooking Biscayne Bay, sipping coffee and watching the pelicans skim the water when my phone rang. The name on the screen almost made me spill the cup. Rachel. My daughter hadn't called me directly in months. Since Marlene, my wife, and her mother passed away 2 years ago, we'd drifted apart. Or rather, she drifted away, pulled into the orbit of her new husband, Cole Winters. I'd tried to accept it. Tried to believe that love could make a woman forget her own father. But hearing her voice that morning, soft, sweet, almost nervous, brought back every memory of when she used to sit on my lap and beg me to tell stories about stars and rockets. "Dad," she said, "Cole and I were thinking it's been too long. You're recovering so well, and we want to celebrate, just the three of us. A short yacht trip around the bay tomorrow. What do you say?" A yacht trip. I almost laughed. I hadn't set foot on one since my younger days as a defense engineer, back when my projects funded half the naval fleet. Still, my heart warmed. Maybe, finally, we were healing. "That sounds wonderful, honey," I said. "Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself," Cole's voice suddenly chimed in, smooth and confident. "We'll handle everything. Think of it as a little family cruise. Oh, and maybe leave your phone behind. You need to disconnect for once." That should have been my first warning. But instead, I chuckled. "You sound like Marlene." "We'll pick you up at 10 sharp, Rachel said. "I can't wait, Dad." After the call ended, I sat there for a long time, staring at the sunlight breaking across the bay. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe Cole had changed. After all, he'd been charming enough when Rachel first brought him home, tall, smooth-talking, a financial advisor who always had a new project on the horizon. I never trusted men who smiled too much, but he made my daughter happy, or so I thought. That evening, I ironed my best linen shirt and navy slacks, the kind Marlene always said made me look distinguished. I even polished my shoes. It felt strange, preparing for something that sounded so normal, so innocent. I'd spent my life designing spacecraft guidance systems, solving impossible equations, managing billion-dollar contracts for the government. Yet nothing had ever made me as nervous as that phone call from my own daughter. The next morning, Miami shimmered with early sunlight. At the marina, white boats gleamed like pearls against turquoise water. Cole and Rachel were already waiting beside a sleek yacht named the Elysium. Cole wore sunglasses and a too-perfect smile. Rachel waved, her blonde hair catching the breeze. "Dad!" she called, running up to hug me. She smelled of perfume and salt air. "You look amazing." "So do you," I said, forcing a smile. Cole handed me a glass of orange juice. "To good health," he said. "To second chances." As we boarded, I noticed the yacht's name again, Elysium, the ancient Greek word for paradise, a fitting title for a vessel that would soon sail straight into hell. I didn't know then that the man steering the yacht beside my daughter was about to steal everything I'd built, my legacy, my family, even my life. All I knew was that, for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged again. If I'd realized what awaited me beyond those calm Miami waves, I would have turned around, walked off that dock, and never looked back. But love makes fools of all of us. And that day, I was the biggest fool of them all. The yacht glided out from the marina, like a blade through glass. Miami shrank behind us, just a shimmer of steel and sunlight, while the endless blue opened ahead. A soft breeze carried the scent of salt, engine oil, and expensive champagne. Rachel sat beside me on the upper deck, her sundress fluttering like a white flag in the wind. Cole was at the wheel, his sleeves rolled up, sunglasses reflecting nothing but sea. For a while, everything seemed perfect. Too perfect. "You know, Dad," Rachel said, smiling faintly, "you look younger already. The surgery really worked miracles." 6 weeks of physical therapy will do that," I replied. "Doctor says I'm tougher than most men half my age." Cole laughed, loud and rehearsed. "That's our Arthur Miami's very own Iron Man." I smiled politely, but something about his tone scratched at me. Cole never joked without purpose. Every word was either a performance or a test. He opened a bottle of vintage champagne. "To family," he said, filling our glasses. "And to new beginnings. The bubbles rose, golden and sharp. I took a polite sip while he drained half his glass in one go. "So, how's business?" I asked. Cole grinned, showing too many teeth. "Booming. We've got investors from Europe now. Private equity, digital currency, big stuff. Rachel's helping with some of the contracts." Rachel looked away, pretending to admire the horizon. "That's great," I said carefully. "You must be doing well." Cole's grin widened. "We owe a lot to you, Arthur. Really, that seed investment you gave us last year, it changed everything." $2 million tends to do that," I said softly. He chuckled. "Worth every cent. But, between us, I think you should consider simplifying your assets. You've got, 5 different trusts, multiple accounts overseas, a corporation still under your name? That's a headache waiting to happen." "I manage," I said, my voice even. "Always have." Rachel shifted uneasily. "Cole just means it might make things easier, in case something ever happened to you. For me, I mean, to handle things." I turned to look at her. "You make it sound like I'm about to keel over any minute." She flushed. "No, Dad, that's not what I meant." Cole leaned back casually. "Arthur, it's just financial housekeeping. These legal structures can get complicated, especially for someone your age. You wouldn't want the government freezing assets, right?" Something in his words twisted like a hook. I laughed lightly, but inside, I felt cold. He poured more champagne into my glass before I could refuse. The smell hit me harder this time, sweet, chemical, off. I remembered my heart surgeon's warning. "No alcohol, not until your medication's done." I set the glass down. "Thanks, but I'll pass." Cole's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Come on, Dad, one drink won't kill you." The phrase hung in the air like gunpowder smoke. Rachel spoke quickly. "Cole, stop pushing." He turned to her. "Relax. We're celebrating." That was when I noticed her hand trembling slightly as she reached for her glass. She wasn't nervous, she was scared. I tried to shift the topic. "Tell me, Rachel, do you still have that painting your mother loved, the one with the red orchids?" She blinked, startled. "No, Cole sold it last year." "Sold it?" "He said we needed to clear some debts," she murmured, "for the business." Cole waved it off. "It was just art, Arthur. Investments move fast. Besides, we'll buy 10 more when this new deal goes through." "Which deal?" He smiled again. "The one that'll finally make your family proud of me." The sky was deepening to copper. Dolphins arched alongside us, their sleek backs glinting in the dying light. For a fleeting second, I wanted to believe it was all innocent, a family trying to reconnect. But then I caught Rachel's reflection in the cabin window. She was watching me not with love, but with something like guilt. And behind her, Cole was holding his phone low, angled just enough that the front camera faced me, recording. A strange quiet settled over the yacht. The only sounds were the soft hum of the engine and the pulse in my ears. That was the moment I knew something was wrong. Not a misunderstanding, not paranoia. Something dark was blooming beneath the surface of that perfect ocean. I stared at the horizon where the sea met the sun, and for the first time that day, I wished I'd never picked up the phone. By the time the sun began to slip behind the horizon, the water had turned from turquoise to molten gold. The yacht drifted farther out than I'd expected. No shoreline, no other vessels, only endless sea. Cole slowed the engine and said, "Perfect spot for dinner." Rachel disappeared below deck to check the food. I followed her with my eyes until she vanished, leaving me alone with him. Cole leaned against the railing, lighting a cigar. The smell of it mixed with the salt air, sharp, invasive. "You know, Arthur," he said casually, "you've done well for yourself. Better than most men ever could." "I had a little luck," I replied. He blew smoke toward the sunset. "Luck and a few good government contracts. You must have hundreds of patents still under your name." "Not hundreds," I said, "but enough to keep the company busy long after I'm gone." "That's what I wanted to talk to you about," he said smoothly. "What happens after you're gone?" I froze. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Your estate," he said. "Your holdings, the company, the assets. Rachel and I think it's time to prepare for the future. You've had heart surgery. You live alone. You forget things sometimes." "I don't forget anything important." Cole smirked. "That's not what your doctor said." I turned sharply. You talked to my doctor? He tapped his cigar. Rachel did. She's worried. The medications you're on, side effects include memory issues, confusion, poor judgment, nothing to be ashamed of. Happens to men your age. Rachel reappeared, carrying a small folder. Her face was pale, her smile tight. She placed the folder on the table. Dad, please just listen. Inside were papers, dozens of them. Legal transfers, updated power of attorney, trust revisions. My signature already appeared faintly on the bottom of one page. I looked closer. It was a copy of my real signature, scanned and printed. Where did you get this? I asked quietly. Rachel's eyes shimmered. Cole said it was necessary to protect you. Cole poured another drink, his voice calm. Arthur, think of it as a safeguard. You sign these and Rachel can handle everything. Bills, medical care, the company, no risk, no confusion. I met his gaze. No control, you mean? He smiled without warmth. Call it what you like. You can either trust us, or we'll have to move forward legally. Legally? Rachel's voice trembled. Dad, please, don't make this harder. The doctors think you might be developing early dementia. I felt my stomach twist. The doctors? Which doctors? The ones you pay? Cole's tone hardened. Be careful, Arthur. You're not thinking clearly. These documents will make sure you're cared for. I laughed. Low and bitter. Cared for. That's one way to describe theft. Rachel whispered, Dad, just sign them, please. I said no. Cole set his glass down. You're making a mistake. No, Cole, I said, my voice steady. The mistake was ever letting you into my family. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the ocean slapping the hull. Then Cole's smile disappeared. So that's how it's going to be. He reached for the papers, tore them in half, and threw them into the sea. Then he stepped closer, too close. You've always underestimated me, he said softly. But I don't need your signature to win. Before I could react, he shoved me one quick, practiced motion. The world tilted. The deck vanished beneath me. The last thing I saw was Rachel's face, her mouth open in a silent scream, as the sky flipped and the ocean swallowed me whole. Cold slammed into me like concrete. Salt burned my eyes. I surfaced, gasping, just in time to see the Elysium drifting away. Dad! Rachel's voice carried faintly through the wind, followed by Cole's harsher tone. He jumped. He slipped. Then the engine roared, and the yacht's lights began to shrink. I kicked hard, my lungs screaming, the waves pulling me under again and again. The sky above turned violet, the stars bleeding through. They were leaving me, my own daughter. For a brief moment, I stopped fighting and floated on my back, staring at the fading glow of Miami far beyond the horizon. I thought of Marlene, of how she'd warned me once. Arthur, that man doesn't love Rachel. He loves what she'll inherit. I had laughed then. I wasn't laughing now. Salt filled my throat as I whispered into the night. You're wrong, Cole. You think you've won, but I'm not done yet. Then I forced myself to swim toward the faint beam of a distant fishing boat, my only lifeline between life and the abyss. When I woke, I was coughing up seawater onto a wooden deck that smelled like salt, diesel, and old rope. The world swayed beneath me, and a man's voice cut through the ringing in my ears. Easy, viejo. You're safe. You're on the Blue Heron. I blinked through the haze. A weathered man with bronze skin and kind eyes was kneeling beside me. His hands were calloused, his gray hair tangled under a faded cap. Beside him stood a teenage girl, maybe 16, holding a towel and looking terrified. Where I tried to speak but my throat burned raw. You were floating out past the reef, the man said, wrapping the towel around me. I'm Captain Luis Mendoza. This is my granddaughter, Sophia. You're lucky we were heading back late. Another hour, and he snapped his fingers. Gone. The cold still clung to my bones, my body trembling uncontrollably. Sophia knelt and offered me a thermos. It's warm tea, she said softly. Drink slow. As I sipped, fragments of memory returned: the yacht, the papers, Cole's grin, the fall. My chest tightened, not from the saltwater but from betrayal. Did you see a white yacht? I asked hoarsely. Name's Elysium. Luis nodded grimly. About 2 miles north. Going fast. Didn't even slow down. Thought they were joyriders. They left me, I whispered. My own family. Luis studied my face, eyes narrowing. You in trouble? I met his gaze. Yes, but not the kind you call the Coast Guard for. He exchanged a glance with Sophia, then turned off the boat's radio. You don't want to be found, do you? I shook my head. Not yet. Let them think I'm dead. I need time to understand what they did and why. Luis exhaled slowly. Most people I pull from the sea want rescue. You're the first who asks for silence. I can pay you, I said quickly. Whatever you need. He waved it off. I don't help for money, but I'll help for justice. My brother got scammed by family, once stole his business, left him broke. I know that kind of pain. We reached the docks near Key Largo just before dawn. The horizon bled pink across the Atlantic. Luis guided me into a narrow cove hidden by mangroves. Nobody comes here, he said. You'll rest at my friend's place. She owes me favors. The place turned out to be a small, 2-story inn called Ortega's Rest. The owner, Miss Carmen Ortega, was a sturdy woman in her 70s, with silver hair pulled into a bun and eyes sharp enough to slice steel. She took one look at my soaked clothes, clucked her tongue, and said, He's not staying outside looking like a drowned ghost. Come in. She handed me dry clothes, old but clean, and a bowl of spicy seafood stew that nearly made me weep. As I ate, she studied me. Who left you out there? My son-in-law, I said quietly, and my daughter helped him. Miss Ortega's ladle froze midair. Your daughter? They think I'm gone, I said. Let's keep it that way. Luis explained my story as best he could, leaving out the money. When he finished, Miss Ortega just nodded. Men like that always slip up eventually. You want to catch them? You'll need to be smart, not loud. She handed me a faded blanket and pointed to a small guest room. Rest. We talk in the morning. That night, I couldn't sleep. My body ached, my mind raced. Through the cracked window, I could hear the waves lapping against the shore, soft and rhythmic like breathing. Somewhere out there, Rachel and Cole were probably drinking champagne, planning their next lie, preparing to cash in on a fortune that wasn't yet buried. I opened my laptop, the backup one I'd kept hidden from everyone, and searched my name. The first headline that appeared froze me solid. Miami engineer and philanthropist Arthur Caldwell, presumed dead in tragic boating accident. Below it, a photo of me smiling beside Cole at a charity gala. Rachel was quoted, saying, Dad had been confused lately. We're just grateful his suffering is over. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I closed it and whispered to the empty room, You made one mistake. Cole, you didn't make sure. I sank. Outside, the night wind rustled through the palms. For the first time in my life, I wasn't a man of science or reason. I was a ghost with a purpose. And before the sun rose again, I knew exactly what I had to do. They thought the sea had taken me. They were wrong. The sea had given me back. 3 days later, I stood beneath the shade of a banyan tree at Coral Ridge Cemetery, watching people gather around a mahogany casket that contained nothing but air, my air. The Miami sun beat down mercilessly, the breeze heavy with salt and deceit. From where I stood, hidden behind a line of tombstones, I could see everything. Rows of chairs arranged neatly beneath a white canopy, flowers spilling over the casket, and a giant framed photo of me smiling in front of my old house. They'd picked the picture from a magazine interview years ago, one that made me look friendly, a little proud, a little tired, appropriate for a man who had passed peacefully. Rachel sat in the front row, black hat, black dress, face buried in a handkerchief. Beside her, Cole looked immaculate in his tailored suit and dark sunglasses, the picture of grieving son-in-law. His hand rested on Rachel's shoulder in a way that felt more like control than comfort. It would have fooled anyone who didn't know the truth. The officiant's voice floated over the murmuring crowd. Arthur Caldwell was a man of innovation and generosity. My neighbor, Paul Jefferson, nodded solemnly. He didn't know he was eulogizing a man who was very much alive, standing a few yards away, clutching a pair of binoculars with trembling hands. I should have felt sorrow. Instead, I felt something colder. Amusement, disgust, and the first flicker of resolve. Luis had driven me here in his old pickup, insisting I shouldn't go alone. Now he stood a few paces behind, watching quietly. You sure you want to see this? He asked. I need to, I said. I need to see what lies look like when spoken over your grave. The crowd began to approach the casket one by one, dropping roses onto the polished wood. Cole shook hands with business partners, whispering words I couldn't hear. Rachel hugged a few old friends from her childhood. I recognized them, people who had once called me Uncle Arthur. They hugged her back with sympathy, never suspecting the ocean hadn't claimed me, greed had. And then I saw something that made my stomach twist. Cole was talking to Evan Blake, my longtime financial advisor. Evan's suit was sharp, his expression unreadable. He handed Cole an envelope, which Cole tucked into his jacket before shaking Evan's hand firmly. "Interesting friend for a funeral," Luis murmured. "That man knows everything about my accounts," I said. "If he's here, he's involved." Rachel turned to the crowd. Her voice, trembling but loud, carried through the humid air. "My father struggled these last few months," she said. "He wasn't himself, but he was a good man. And now, he's free." Free. The word hung there, twisting like a knife. I looked away, jaw tightening. The priest closed his Bible. People started to drift toward their cars, their umbrellas, their gossip. Cole stayed behind, speaking with a short woman in a red coat, someone I didn't recognize. She was younger, early 40s, with auburn hair cut sharply at her chin. She handed him a folder. I saw the initials embossed on the cover. MT. Luis noticed too. "Who's she?" "No idea," I said, my pulse quickening. "But she's not here to pray." Cole and the woman exchanged a brief, serious conversation. Then she left quickly, sliding into a black Mercedes and driving away before I could note the plate number. I raised the binoculars again. Cole placed a hand on Rachel's lower back and guided her toward the car, smiling for a reporter's camera. They looked like the perfect couple, young, wealthy, devastated. I waited until the last car disappeared down the lane before stepping closer to the gravesite. The tombstone wasn't finished yet, but a temporary placard read, "Arthur L. Caldwell, 1955, 2023. Beloved father, visionary, philanthropist." I crouched, brushing the dirt from the plastic stand. For a moment I studied my own name in silence. "Beloved father," I muttered. "They always save the best lies for the end." Luis stepped up beside me. "So what now?" I straightened slowly. "Now we find out how deep this goes." That night, back at Miss Ortega's inn, I opened my laptop again. The obituary had already spread online, complete with a donation link to support Alzheimer's research. I clicked it. The funds went directly to an account under the Winters Family Foundation. "They're already monetizing your death," Luis said. I stared at the screen. Good. The more visible they make it, the easier they'll be to destroy. Before I went to bed, I printed out a list of names. Evan Blake, Monica Trent, and the mysterious woman in red, with the initials MT. I pinned the list to the wall above my desk and circled one word beneath them all. Motive. Outside, the Miami night pulsed with life waves crashing, engines humming, palm leaves rustling. Somewhere beyond that horizon, my daughter was asleep beside a man who'd tried to murder me. And for the first time since the ocean swallowed me, I didn't feel afraid. I felt alive. Alive and ready to begin the hunt. By the 5th night after my funeral, I decided watching from the shadows wasn't enough. I needed proof. Something that would tear their perfect facade apart. And there was only one place to find it. The home I'd built with my own hands, now occupied by the two people who'd tried to erase me. Luis tried to talk me out of it. "Arthur, you're not 25 anymore. They could still be watching that place. Cameras, alarms, hell, maybe even guards." "I designed half the security systems in that house," I told him, pulling on a black windbreaker. "If they upgraded, I'll know. If they didn't, I'll walk right through their blind spots." He sighed, shaking his head. "You've got that engineer brain again. Just don't get yourself killed proving you're smarter." "I already proved that when I didn't drown," I said. And we drove off into the Miami night. The mansion in Coral Gables stood like a silent monument, behind iron gates, white columns, manicured palms, the same fountain Marlene had chosen years ago still spilling water in the dark. I parked Luis's truck 2 blocks away and slipped through the side path I'd built for service crews, a narrow trail behind the hedges. The gate sensor was exactly where I'd left it. I popped the casing, cut the low-voltage wire, and the light went dark. The feeling that rushed through me was both exhilarating and tragic. Breaking into my own home should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt like reclaiming oxygen. Inside, the air was cold from the central A divided by C. Everything smelled faintly of perfume and bleach. I moved quietly through the kitchen, pausing at the marble counter where Marlene and I used to drink coffee at sunrise. Now it was lined with unopened champagne bottles and receipts for jewelry, hotels, and a string of cash withdrawals that reeked of laundering. Then I saw something new. A framed photo of Rachel and Cole in front of the house, but in her arms an infant. I froze. My daughter had never been pregnant. There had been no announcements, no baby showers, no hint of motherhood. Yet here she was, holding a child with a name engraved on the silver frame. Liam Winters, 2023. A chill rippled down my spine. "Who are you, little one?" I whispered. I checked the refrigerator stocked with formula, baby food, and fresh fruit. Upstairs, the soft hum of a white noise machine drifted from one of the rooms. I crept closer, every step measured. The nursery door stood half open. Inside, a crib sat under a mobile of planets spinning gently in the dim blue light. In the crib, a baby no older than a month slept soundly. For a moment, all my anger dissolved. I stepped closer, gazing down at his small face. He had dark hair, a tiny scar under his chin, as if born with some fight already in him. Something in me ached. I thought of Rachel as a baby, how she used to curl her fingers around mine. Then, a sound car tires on gravel outside. I killed the light and backed into the hallway. Two voices filtered in through the front door. Cole's low, commanding tone. Rachel's uncertain whisper. "You shouldn't have called her," Cole said. "She's gone. Stop acting like she's haunting you." "I saw something today," Rachel murmured. "At the cemetery, a shadow. I swear I felt him watching." "Then you need to get more sleep," he snapped. "We can't afford mistakes." MT said the accounts will transfer fully once probate clears. "That's 6 weeks, Rachel. 6 weeks, and we're untouchable." MT again. The woman in red. They moved toward the living room. I slipped into Robert's old study, the one I'd used as an office, and closed the door halfway. The faint glow of a desk lamp illuminated stacks of documents spread across the mahogany surface. I began photographing everything with the small camera Luis had given me. Bank statements, fake medical records, describing cognitive decline. Emails, labeled Operation Sunset. Each file painted the same picture, a carefully orchestrated plan to destroy my credibility, declare me unfit, and seize control before a controlled accident at sea. I found a binder labeled Health Summary. Dr. M. Trent. That name hit me like a hammer. Monica Trent, my family lawyer. She and Evan Blake were in this too. They'd fed my financial data to Cole for years. Then came the final blow. A typed memo on expensive stationery bearing the initials MT. The subject remains cooperative in public, but signs of suspicion are increasing. Recommend moving to Phase 3 within the month. Ensure accident scenario is water-based, to align with previous medical limitations. All documentation pre-arranged. I stared at the words until they blurred. Phase 3. The accident. Me. A noise from downstairs broke my trance, the clink of glasses. Laughter too bright to be real. I peeked through the window blinds. Cole was pouring wine. Rachel sat stiffly across from him, her smile frozen. Then the baby cried upstairs. "Go check on him," Cole said. Rachel hesitated, then started up the stairs toward me. I slipped out the back hallway and down the service stairs, heart hammering in my chest. As I passed the kitchen, I saw my reflection in the glass door, older, thinner, but sharper than ever. By the time Rachel reached the nursery, I was already outside, crouching behind the hedges. I watched the lights flicker through the curtains, listened to her soft, shushing voice. She looked tired, hollow, trapped, and in that moment, I realized she wasn't just complicit, she was afraid. Luis's truck headlights flashed twice from down the street, our signal. I climbed in, drenched in sweat, my mind reeling. "You get what you needed?" he asked. "Oh, I got everything," I said, staring back at the glowing mansion, and something I didn't expect. "What's that?" I watched a shadow cross the nursery window and whispered, "A baby who shouldn't exist." Luis frowned. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means This isn't just about money anymore, I said quietly. It's about a crime far worse than greed. And as the truck disappeared into the night, the weight of that truth settled in my chest like an anchor. I wasn't just fighting for revenge anymore. I was fighting to uncover the kind of evil that kills innocence, to buy power. The next morning, I spread the photos across the breakfast table at Miss Ortega's inn. The morning light spilled through the lace curtains, soft and golden. But there was nothing soft about what those pictures showed. Luis sat beside me, his face grim. You sure you want to keep digging, viejo? You got proof they tried to kill you. You could go to the cops right now. I don't want them arrested, I said flatly. Not yet. I want the people behind them. Whoever MT is. Whoever wrote that memo. Miss Ortega poured us coffee. You'll need someone who knows how to dig deep without getting caught, she said. I might know someone. She used to do private work for lawyers and insurance companies. Good reputation, quiet type. That's how I met Detective Nadia Cruz. She arrived that afternoon, a woman in her late 40s, with dark hair tied in a braid, eyes sharp as a hawk's. She wore no jewelry, no perfume, just a gray blazer and a calmness that made everyone else seem unsteady. Luis met her at the door. You're sure we can trust her? Miss Ortega smiled faintly. She caught my ex-husband cheating using only a camera and a bag of Cheetos. Trust me, she's good. Nadia studied me for a long moment before speaking. So, you're the dead man walking. That's one way to put it, I said. She sat down, flipping open a small notepad. All right, Mr. Caldwell. Tell me everything. Start with how you ended up in the ocean. I did. Every detail. From Cole's fake concern to Rachel's shaking hands to the words, say hello to the sharks. Nadia didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she closed her notepad and said quietly, You're lucky to be alive. Luck had nothing to do with it, I replied. Now I need answers. She spread the photos I'd taken on the table, documents, fake medical reports, the memo from MT. These initials, MT, they're important. Whoever wrote this was directing your son-in-law, not following him. That's what I think, I said. I want her name, her face, her connections. Nadia nodded. Then you just hired the right woman. 3 days later, she returned with a folder thicker than a novel. MT stands for Miranda Torres, she said, sliding a photograph across the table. A familiar face stared back at me, the same woman in the red coat from my funeral. She's an attorney, partner at Torres and Hensley Associates, a boutique law firm in downtown Miami. But that's just the cover. What's underneath? An empire, Nadia said. Her firm specializes in estate transition services, basically helping families access wealth from elderly relatives faster than the law allows. In the past 5 years, she's been tied to at least 9 accidental deaths of elderly clients. None of them investigated. Miss Ortega crossed herself. Dios mío, Nadia continued. She runs it like a business. First, she identifies wealthy targets, people with big estates and complicated family ties. Then she connects with greedy heirs who want to simplify things. She provides lawyers, doctors, even fake psychologists to certify dementia or mental decline. When the paperwork is in place, the target conveniently dies. My stomach turned. And the police never noticed? She pays them to look the other way, Nadia said. Or she uses families who make it look convincing. You're not her first. You're just the first who survived. I sat back, trying to breathe. The room felt smaller suddenly, heavier. Then Cole and Rachel were part of her system. Yes, Nadia said. And I think she promised them everything, the company, your estates, the trust fund in exchange for a cut. But there's more. She opened another folder. Inside were photos of Azure Genesis Institute, a fertility and genetics clinic in Coral Gables. I frowned. What's that got to do with me? That's where Rachel and Cole have been going every week for the last 8 months, Nadia said. They paid nearly $500,000 in cash for private services. The clinic's records are sealed, but my contact inside confirmed one detail. She laid down a photo, Cole and Rachel walking into the building, followed by a doctor holding a clipboard labeled Infant Care Program. The baby, I whispered. Nadia nodded. It wasn't theirs. They bought a newborn through an illegal surrogacy arrangement. I've seen this before. Rich families paying desperate young women to carry babies for them. Most of the time, the mothers disappear afterward. Some of them die. The air in the room thickened. Miss Ortega stopped moving, her hands frozen mid-air. Luis cursed under his breath. "Do we know the mother's name?" I asked. Nadia hesitated. "Not yet. The records were scrubbed, but I found a name on one outdated invoice, K. Jensen. I'll keep digging." I leaned forward. "Find her. If she's alive, I want to help her. If she's not, I want to know what they did to her." Nadia's eyes softened. "You really don't give up, do you?" "No," I said quietly. "Because if they think they can build a family out of blood and lies, they don't know who they're dealing with." She packed her folders. "Then we'll start there. I'll dig into Torres's finances, the clinic's ownership, and that name K. Jensen. You stay hidden. Let them believe you're still a ghost." I watched her leave, her silhouette sharp against the Miami sun streaming through the window. Luis muttered, "So what's next, amigo?" I looked at the stack of papers, the photos of the baby, the woman in red, and the house I'd once called home. "What's next?" I repeated. "We pull every thread until the whole thing unravels, and when it does, they'll wish the sea had finished what they started." Outside, a storm was rolling in from the Atlantic, clouds gathering fast over the horizon. For the first time, I welcomed it. Because storms wash away lies. And mine was just beginning. It was just after midnight when Nadia called. Her voice was sharp, clipped, urgent. "Arthur, I found her." I sat up straight in bed, the old mattress creaking under me. "Found who?" "The surrogate. The baby's mother. Her name's Kara Jensen, 16 years old, from Tulsa, Oklahoma." I felt my chest tighten. 16? "She was reported missing 7 months ago," Nadia continued. "Her mother said she left home after a fight. Police assumed she ran away. 2 weeks later, she turned up in Miami under an assumed name, Karen James, registered at a private maternity housing facility linked to Azure Genesis." Luis, half asleep in the chair across the room, looked up as I repeated the words, "A missing teenager, registered under a fake name, paid by Cole and Rachel." Nadia's voice hardened. "It gets worse. Kara gave birth 3 weeks ago, died the same day. Cause of death, listed as cardiac failure during delivery. No autopsy, no burial record. Her body was cremated by order of her guardian, which doesn't exist on paper." My mouth went dry. "So they killed her." "I can't prove that yet," Nadia said. "But the timing is too perfect. Cole and Rachel made a 6-figure payment to Azure Genesis 3 days before Kara's death. That's when they got the birth certificate for Liam." "Fake certificate?" "Completely fabricated. I traced the digital signature. It's from a closed government login. Someone inside the system is forging documents for Torres's clients." The room felt cold despite the Miami heat. I pressed my palms to my face, trying to make sense of it all. "So they didn't just try to murder me for the money. They bought a baby to inherit it." "Yes," Nadia said softly. "Torres built a full inheritance model. She manufactures heirs. She kills off the old generation, installs a legal successor, and controls the assets through her network." I stared at the wall, remembering the baby's small face, the innocent eyes. She used a child's death to create another life she could sell. "Arthur," Nadia said gently, "this isn't just about you anymore. This woman's running a criminal industry built on exploitation and murder. And that baby, he's the living proof." Luis slammed his palm on the table. "Then we take it to the police, the FBI, anyone." Nadia hesitated. "We can't, not yet. If Torres finds out we're digging, she'll make everyone vanish. The baby, the nurses, the records, everything." I clenched my fists. "So what do we do?" She paused. "We build an airtight case. We document every step, every payment, every signature. But most importantly, we protect that baby. He's the key to everything." I glanced at Luis. He nodded. "Then we start by making sure he's safe." The next day, Nadia arranged for me to meet one of her contacts, an inside nurse at Azure Genesis, named Carmen Vega. We met at a small Cuban cafe in Little Havana, the kind of place where the coffee could burn holes through steel. Carmen looked terrified, even sitting down. "I can't talk long," she whispered, stirring her cup. "If they find out, I'll lose everything." "They won't," I promised. "Just tell us what happened to Kara Jensen." Her hands trembled. "She was healthy. Perfect vitals all through pregnancy. I was there the day she delivered. The labor was normal. Then a woman showed up, said she was the family's representative. Miranda Torres. She went into the delivery room with a briefcase. Carmen swallowed hard. 10 minutes later, Cara started convulsing. The monitors went crazy. The doctor shouted for help, but Torres told everyone to leave the room. She said it was a panic attack. When we came back, Cara was gone. Heart stopped. Torres ordered immediate cremation to protect privacy. Luis's jaw tightened. And the baby? They took him straight to a private nursery. A week later, the papers listed Rachel Winters as the mother. The whole staff got paid bonuses to stay quiet. Carmen slid a folded paper across the table, a photocopy of Cara's hospital wristband. I kept this, she whispered, in case someone ever came asking. I held the thin strip of paper like it was sacred. You did the right thing. Her eyes filled with tears. She was just a kid, Mr. Caldwell. She kept asking if her baby would be loved. She said she was doing this so he could have a better life. The lump in my throat made it hard to breathe. He will, I said quietly. I'll make sure of it. When Carmen left, Nadia leaned forward. We've got enough to expose Torres's operation, but we still need one final link. Proof that Rachel and Cole knew what was happening. Oh, they knew, I said. Rachel may have convinced herself it was just business, but Cole, he orchestrated every move. Nadia nodded. Then we get him on tape. That night, I stared out the window of my small room at Miss Ortega's inn. The city lights shimmered over the bay, reflecting like broken glass. Somewhere across that water, my daughter was living in a mansion filled with blood, money, and lies, rocking a stolen baby to sleep. I made a silent promise to Cara, to that child, and to Marlene's memory. They wanted a ghost? Fine. I'd become one. Not the kind that haunts out of sorrow. The kind that brings reckoning. By the time dawn broke over Miami, the city shimmered under a thin mist, sunlight glancing off the bay like glass. I sat at the small wooden table in Miss Ortega's kitchen, papers spread before me, Cara's wristband, fake certificates, the memo from Torres, the bank records. Each page was a piece of the puzzle, and the picture they formed was monstrous. Luis entered, rubbing his eyes. You haven't slept. I'll sleep when this is over, I said quietly. He poured himself coffee. So, what's the next move, Ghost Man? The next move, I said, picking up a pen, is to let them know the ghost can write letters. That morning, I composed a note in my neat engineer's handwriting, on the same cream stationery Rachel had given me for Father's Day years ago. It read, Dear Rachel and Cole, reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. We need to talk. Love, Dad. P.S. Give my regards to little Liam. He's beautiful. I sealed it in an envelope and handed it to Luis. Deliver this to Torres's law firm. Have it couriered directly to their office while they're inside. He grinned. You're sure you don't want to sign it the Ghost of Biscayne Bay? Tempting, I said. But subtlety will keep them up at night. While Luis handled the delivery, Nadia was busy setting the trap. She'd managed to bug Rachel and Cole's house with miniature microphones planted through the nursery's ventilation vents and under the office desk. The nanny, Clara Davis, had agreed to help after Nadia showed her evidence of Cara's death. Clara was terrified but determined. If I'd known what they'd done, she'd told us, I never would have worked for them. That afternoon, I met Clara at a quiet cafe near Coral Gables. She arrived in her scrubs, looking pale but resolute. I slid a small flash drive across the table. Record everything, I said. Conversations, visitors, late-night calls, anything suspicious, especially if that woman Miranda Torres shows up. Clara nodded. What about the baby? I softened. Protect him first. Always. She hesitated, glancing at me. You look so much like him, she whispered. His eyes. I smiled faintly. That's because I'm going to make sure he grows up knowing he came from love, not blood money. By noon, everything was in motion. Luis's courier dropped off the letter at Torres's office at exactly 11:45 a.m. According to Nadia, who was watching from a parked car across the street with a telephoto lens, the moment the receptionist handed the envelope to Torres, she froze. She opened it, Arthur, Nadia reported through the earpiece. Her face just drained. She's calling someone. Wait. Yes. She's calling Cole. At the same moment, inside the Coral Gables mansion, Cole's phone rang. The audio captured through Clara's transmitter was crystal clear. "What the hell do you mean a letter?" Cole hissed. Torres's voice crackled through. "It's signed by him, the father. He's alive." "That's impossible. Rachel's voice cut in, trembling. "Cole, what if he survived?" "Then we'll finish it properly this time," Cole snapped. I closed my eyes, listening to my son-in-law's voice like venom in my ears. "Torres, calm down," he continued. "If he's alive, we'll make him disappear again, permanently. Don't panic." Torres's voice hardened. "If you want my help, you'll follow instructions. He's dangerous now. A live problem with evidence. We'll handle it together." They were rattled. Perfect. When Nadia arrived that evening, she was grinning. They panicked exactly like you wanted. They left Torres's office in a hurry. And guess what? They didn't go home. Where? To a private meeting at the Oceania Hotel, penthouse floor. Torres booked it under a fake name, Marion Taylor. "They're meeting tonight, probably to plan how to deal with you." Louis leaned forward. "So we crash the meeting?" "Not yet," I said. "Let them talk. Let them think they're safe." Nadia nodded. "We'll bug the suite. I can get hotel security to let me in for maintenance. We'll have everything they say recorded before midnight." "Good," I said. "By tomorrow morning, I want a confession." She gave a small smile. "Arthur, I've done this for 20 years, but I've never seen anyone haunt their enemies so effectively." I smiled grimly. You can't fight monsters by being polite. That night, rain lashed the windows of Miss Ortega's inn as thunder rolled across the horizon. I sat by the window, staring out at the storm. Somewhere across that city, Rachel and Cole were realizing that their perfect plan had cracks and that the man they'd tried to drown was swimming through them. At 11:52 p.m., Nadia's call came through. Her voice was tense. "They're talking now. You need to hear this." Through the static came Torres's voice. "He's alive, and he knows about Kara Jensen. If this leaks, it's not just us, it's everyone. Do you understand? Everyone goes down." Then Rachel, her voice breaking. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, we fix it," Torres replied coldly. "I've arranged for someone from New York. A cleaner. He'll make sure there are no loose ends this time. The father, the nanny, the baby, all of it." My blood ran cold. Luis looked at me. "What's she mean, cleaner?" I stared out the rain-blurred window. "It means they're bringing a professional killer." The thunder cracked so hard it rattled the glass. Nadia's voice dropped to a whisper. "Arthur, we're running out of time." And for the first time since that night on the yacht, I felt the familiar pulse of fear, but not for myself. For the baby. For Clara. For the truth that was about to be silenced forever if we didn't move first. I looked at the storm breaking over the ocean and said the words that would change everything. Then we don't wait for them to come to us. We go to them. The next evening, the storm still hovered low over Miami. Thick clouds bruised the sky. Lightning cracked above the skyline like veins of fire. It was the kind of night that swallowed sound, perfect for what we were about to do. Nadia's SUV rolled to a stop across from the Oceania Hotel. She checked the recording gear one last time. Lapel cameras, wireless mics, and a tracker disguised as a key fob. "Once we're inside, we play it like a meeting," she said. "You don't threaten them, you listen. Let them reveal themselves." Luis grinned, loading the last battery pack. "And if they do something stupid?" "Then we let the FBI handle the stupid part," Nadia replied, sliding her badge back into her coat. But I had my own plan, something neither of them knew. "Arthur," Nadia said, turning to me, "you sure you're ready for this?" I looked out the windshield, at the glittering hotel tower. I was ready the moment they threw me into the ocean. Inside, the lobby gleamed with marble and gold, the smell of citrus polish and money. We took the private elevator to the 41st floor. Torres had rented the penthouse suite under a false name, but the staff, after a quiet word from Nadia, let us in through the adjoining room. From behind the connecting door, I heard voices. Cole's first, sharp and impatient. "We shouldn't even be here. If he's alive, we should finish it before he talks." Rachel's voice trembled. "He's my father, Cole. I didn't want him dead." "You wanted his money," Torres snapped. "And that's exactly what you'll lose if we don't act now. This man will destroy everything." I pushed the door open. You're right about one thing, Miranda. I will. The room froze. Rachel gasped, her wine glass slipping from her hand and shattering on the marble floor. Cole went pale. Torres's face didn't move at all. She just turned, assessing me like a scientist studying an unpredictable specimen. Hello, Cole, I said softly. Missed me? He took a step back. How? Survivors tend to float, I said. Rachel's voice cracked. Dad, oh God, we thought. Don't lie, Rachel. You didn't think anything. You knew exactly what would happen. Cole tried to recover his composure. You're making a mistake showing up here. You have no proof, and breaking in won't help you. Oh, I didn't break in. I glanced toward the hallway where Nadia appeared, holding her badge. She let me in. She's with the FBI's task force on inheritance fraud. Torres laughed, low and confident. Nice trick, but you have no case. Everything you've found is circumstantial. I smiled. Then let's make it less circumstantial. I placed a small recorder on the table. This is already live streaming to a secure server. You can walk out now, or you can keep talking. For the first time, Miranda Torres looked unsettled. Cole's voice rose. You think this little stunt scares me? You're an old man playing detective. I turned to him, calm. You tried to drown an engineer, Cole. I build systems that outlast men like you. Lightning flashed outside, painting the room white. For a moment, I saw Rachel's reflection in the window tears streaking her face. Dad, please, she whispered. I didn't want you hurt. Then why did you sign the transfer papers? I asked. She broke down. Because he said we'd lose everything if I didn't. He said you were already losing your mind, that it was just a matter of time. I looked at her for a long moment. You lost something far greater than money, Rachel. Torres exhaled through her nose. Enough of this melodrama. She reached into her bag, pulling out a sleek black folder. You think you can trap me? You don't understand how this business works. I run legacies, Mr. Caldwell. The weak pass on, and the strong inherit. I've done it 37 times, and no one has ever proven a thing. The room went silent. Nadia stepped forward. Thank you, Miss Torres. That's all we needed. Torres froze. Her eyes flicked to the corner where a tiny red light blinked from the hidden camera in the lamp. Within seconds, the sound of boots thundered down the hallway. The door burst open. FBI agents flooded the suite, guns drawn. Federal agents, hands where we can see them. Cole stumbled backward, shouting, You can't do this! Rachel screamed. Torres just stood still, her expression turning to stone. The agents cuffed them all. One of them nodded toward me. Mr. Caldwell, you're safe now. We've been monitoring everything since the letter. As Cole was dragged past me, he hissed, You'll regret this. I leaned closer. No, Cole. You will. Every single day you wake up behind bars. Rachel looked at me, sobbing. Dad, please, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I wanted to hate her, but what I felt was something worse. Emptiness. I hope one day you remember the girl you used to be, I said quietly. And I hope she forgives you, because I can't. When the elevator doors closed on them, the only sound left in the room was the rain against the glass. Nadia shut off the recorder. That's it, you got them. I nodded, staring out at the lightning striking over Biscayne Bay. Not just them. Every person who helped Torres build this empire. Every doctor, every lawyer, every fake signature, she just confessed to all of it. She smiled faintly. You just brought down the biggest inheritance murder ring in the country. I turned toward her, voice low but steady. No, we did. As we walked out of the penthouse, I took one last look at the shattered wine glass on the floor, the symbol of everything broken. For the first time since the night I was thrown into the ocean, I felt the tide turning. Justice wasn't just coming. It was already here. 3 days later, Miami's air felt different, cleaner, somehow. The headlines had spread from local papers to national networks. FBI cracks, elder fraud syndicate, 37 families involved. Former lawyer Miranda Torres, charged with racketeering and murder. Heroic survivor exposes billion-dollar inheritance scam. My name wasn't in the articles. The agents promised to protect my privacy until the trial was over, but that didn't matter. I'd already said everything I needed to say. Rachel and Cole were denied bail. Their faces flashed on TV, two strangers I barely recognized. I turned off the screen, after 10 seconds. You sure you don't want to watch the hearing? Luis asked, dropping by with breakfast. I shook my head. No, I was there for the real trial, the one that happened in that hotel room. He chuckled softly. You've got that retired warrior calm again. Not calm, I said. Just finished. Later that morning, Nadia arrived with paperwork and tired eyes. She'd been up half the night filing statements and coordinating evidence with federal prosecutors. You realize, she said, pouring herself coffee, you didn't just take down Torres's ring. You forced the government to open a task force on inheritance-based elder crimes. That's going to save lives, Arthur. I smiled faintly. Good. Maybe some other parent won't have to watch their own child turn into a stranger. She studied me for a moment. What are you going to do now? The question hung there like the humid air outside. I'd thought about it endlessly. Revenge stories always end with justice, but no one ever talks about what happens after. I think, I said slowly, I'll rebuild something small, something real. Maybe go back to teaching. I used to love showing kids how to design things that last. Nadia's face softened. You'd be good at that. Before she left, she handed me a sealed envelope. This came from the hospital. I frowned. What is it? DNA confirmation, she said quietly. You should read it when you're ready. After she was gone, I sat on the porch overlooking the canal, the sunlight breaking through clouds for the first time in days. My hands trembled slightly as I opened the envelope. The report was short, just a few lines, clinical and precise. Subject: Infant Liam Jensen. Result: 99.98% probability biological match to Arthur Caldwell. For a long time, I couldn't breathe. My ears rang. The paper blurred. The baby wasn't Kara's alone. He was mine. My mind reeled backward months before the yacht, before the betrayal. My medical records, the blood samples Rachel and Cole insisted on managing for insurance paperwork. I remembered signing one vague consent form during my hospital stay. I never questioned it. They'd used my stored genetic data. They'd engineered a child carrying my DNA to legitimize their claim on my estate. The full horror of it hit me like another wave from the Atlantic. They hadn't just tried to murder me. They'd manufactured my bloodline to steal my fortune. When Luis came by that evening, he found me still sitting there, the paper limp in my hand. He read the result once, then let out a long, low whistle. So the kid's really yours, in a way. In every way that matters, I said softly. He's the only innocent thing left from all this. Luis nodded slowly. What are you going to do about him? I looked out over the water where pelicans skimmed the surface. I'm going to raise him. Teach him what family is supposed to mean. A week later, the court finalized the guardianship transfer. Baby Liam, no longer an exhibit in a criminal case, became Liam Arthur Jensen Caldwell. He was a quiet baby, always staring at the world like he already understood more than he should. When I held him for the first time in the courthouse hallway, he reached for my collar and clung to it with surprising strength. Nadia smiled through tired eyes. Looks like you've been claimed. I think I'm the one being adopted, I said, and for the first time in years it didn't feel like a joke. That night, as the city lights shimmered across Biscayne Bay, I stood on my balcony holding Liam in my arms. He slept soundly, his tiny heartbeat pressed against my chest. I used to think blood was what made us family, I whispered to the sleeping child. But blood was the very thing that nearly destroyed me. Family isn't about who inherits what. It's about who shows up when you're drowning. I looked toward the dark horizon, where the ocean stretched endlessly, remembering the night I almost didn't survive. Your mother was brave, Liam. She tried to give you a better life, and I promise you, she succeeded. The waves rolled softly against the shore, like applause from the universe itself. For the first time since my fall into the Atlantic, I felt at peace. Not because justice had been served, but because the story didn't end with vengeance, it ended with purpose. And in that quiet Miami night, I finally understood what survival truly meant. It wasn't escaping death. It was learning how to live again. 5 years passed. Miami changed, as cities always do. New towers rose, old neighborhoods faded, and the skyline grew brighter and more merciless. But in my small home near Coconut Grove, life moved slower, quieter. There was laughter in the mornings now, the kind that only children can make. Liam was 5, all big brown eyes and endless curiosity. He'd grown into the kind of boy who asked questions about everything. The stars, the ocean, even why coffee smelled like storms. He didn't know the full truth yet. Not the yacht, not Torres, not Rachel and Cole. But one day he would. For now, he just called me Grandpa Art. That morning, I watched him chase a lizard across the porch while sunlight spilled over the garden. The boy, who had been born out of greed, was now the very proof that love could outlast evil. Miss Ortega stopped by with a basket of guava pastries. "He's getting taller every day," she said, smiling. "You must be proud." "Proud doesn't begin to cover it," I said. She studied me for a moment. "You look different too, Arthur. Lighter." "I suppose I am. I stopped carrying ghosts." That wasn't entirely true. Some ghosts never leave. They just become quieter. Rachel had written from prison twice a year. Her letters were long, remorseful, full of scripture and regret. The first one, I tore up without reading. The second, I skimmed. The third, I read carefully and cried when she wrote, "You were right, Dad. Love doesn't die. It just hides until someone gives it a reason to live again." I didn't respond, but I kept that letter folded in my desk drawer. Cole never wrote. His conviction was longer 40 years. Rumors said he'd been attacked after trying to manipulate other inmates. Some men don't learn. Torres, the architect of all that darkness, would die behind bars. The network she built was dismantled piece by piece. Federal agents called me once a year for testimony updates, but each time, the calls became shorter. The case was closed in everything but memory. The real closure, though, came from something smaller, an email from a university in Boston. They wanted me to guest lecture in their ethics and engineering program. "We want students to hear from someone who's seen how innovation can save or destroy lives," the dean wrote. At first, I laughed at the irony. Then I said yes. When I walked into that classroom months later, the young faces staring back at me reminded me of who I'd once been: ambitious, certain, naive. I told them my story, not as a tale of crime, but as a lesson in design. "Every system you build," I said, drawing a diagram on the board, "starts with trust. And every collapse starts when trust is replaced with control. Never forget that technology, like family, is about responsibility, not ownership." When the class ended, one student lingered behind. "Sir," she asked quietly, "did you forgive them?" I thought about that for a long moment before answering. "I forgave myself first," I said. "The rest came after." That night, back home, Liam sat beside me on the porch swing, a blanket over his shoulders. "Grandpa," he said sleepily, "Mommy's up in the stars, right?" "Yes," I whispered. "She's watching over you." He looked at me with those deep, knowing eyes. "Does she miss me?" "Every single day," I said, my throat tightening. "But she's proud of you. You're brave, like she was." He smiled and rested his head against my arm. The sky above us was alive with constellations, glittering like distant promises. Somewhere out there, I like to imagine, Kara Jensen's soul had finally found peace. As the night breeze rustled through the palms, I realized something I wished I'd known long ago. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about restoration. About giving what was broken a chance to become whole again. Liam stirred and mumbled, half asleep, "I love you, Grandpa." "I love you too, kiddo," I whispered. "More than you'll ever know." Inside, the old clock ticked softly, steady as a heartbeat. The house smelled of salt and guava and second chances. For a man who once sank into the Atlantic, I had never felt more afloat. In the end, the ocean didn't take me. It cleansed me. The storm didn't destroy me. It revealed who was worth surviving for. And as the waves murmured beyond the bay, I knew that sometimes life's cruelest betrayals aren't the end of the story. They're just the tide that carries you to shore.